Oh my God, Derek!
Get ready to confront your deepest fears with Prime Video's 20 most terrifying horror movies. From relentless suspense to chilling stories that crawl under your skin, these scary pics will keep you awake long after the credits roll. Number 20, Landmine Goes Click.
He is standing on a bomb. If he moves, we all die.
Three American tourists, Chris, Alicia, and Daniel, venture off the beaten path into the mountains of Georgia only to have the idol shatter when Chris steps on a landmine. He is rendered immobile, forced to watch in helpless horror as their situation spirals into nightmare. Trust fractures when Daniel's betrayal surfaces, revealing that the mine was no accident but a calculated trap born of jealousy and revenge. With rescue out of reach, a mysterious hunter arrives, his help cloaked in menace as he subjects Alicia to increasingly dehumanizing demands. The tension crescendos into a brutal, twisted game of power, humiliation, and raw vengeance that leaves no one unscathed. This relentless plunge into exploitation horror feels like a macabre inversion of survival. Hope turns poisonous, and salvation is twisted into torture. Number 19, Kiss of the Damned. Paolo, a screenwriter seeking quiet to finish his next script in a secluded Connecticut summer house, becomes captivated by Juna, an alluring woman whose mystery runs deep. As their bond grows, Paolo discovers Juna is a vampire surviving on animal blood, and he slowly accepts the darkness she embodies. Their lives are further complicated when Mimi, Juna's unpredictable and estranged sister, arrives, bringing chaos in her wake that threatens not just Paolo and Juna's love, but the delicate rules governing their supernatural world. The film blends erotic gothic romance with vintage 70s vampire motifs, exploring what love looks like when mortality, desire, and forbidden impulses collide under moonlight. Number 18, Butt Boy.
He does this in sprees, almost in serial killer fashion.
Chip Gutchell lives a numbing routine, desk job, strained marriage, and zero joy. But after a routine prostate exam sparks a strange sensation, he discovers a compulsive hunger that defies logic, the ability to insert objects into his body and make them disappear. As the urge grows, so does the scale of what vanishes. When a child disappears during a school visit, Detective Russell Fox begins to suspect Chip of something far more sinister than anyone could imagine. The film blends gritty detective noir with grotesque body horror, creating a surreal and unsettling descent into addiction, guilt, and obsession. It's bizarre, deadpan, and deeply disturbing, playing it straight even as the horror spirals into the absurd. Number 17, The Transfiguration.
I think it starts with drinking blood. Like you have a need to...
Milo, a 14-year-old orphan living in Brooklyn with his older brother, retreats into vampire lore as a refuge from bullying, poverty, and grief. Obsessed with rules about vampires, hunting in the night, feeding only under certain conditions, he isolates himself while also scavenging for real victims in dark alleys and public restrooms to satisfy his cravings. When Sophie, another troubled teen haunted by loss, moves into his building, they form a fragile friendship, and Milo begins to question whether his vampiric obsession is a safe escape or a dangerous mirror to his inner darkness. Directed by Michael O'Shea, The Transfiguration is a moody, intimate horror drama that blurs the line between fantasy and reality, exploring trauma, identity, and the monstrous impulses we hide. Number 16, Humane. After an environmental collapse forces global leaders to institute euthanasia to cull the population by 20%, a retired newsman convenes his 4 grown children for what should be a solemn family dinner. In a wealthy estate threatened by empty cupboards and societal decay, he reveals that he and his celebrity chef wife have volunteered to die that evening under the government's brutal program. But when something happens last moment, the door opens to chaos and savage dilemma. This dystopian horror thriller unspools like a savage dinner theater where mercy dies in the glow of desperate reasoning. Number 15, Excision.
Some of your behavior has been downright sociopathic. I don't know a teenager.
Pauline, a deeply disturbed high school student, feels trapped by her rigid, strongly Christian mother and craves approval she never seems to get. She's haunted by morbid fantasies, dreams of blood, surgeries, and mutilation that blur the line between her imagination and reality, while also taking on her responsibilities at home, especially caring for her younger sister who suffers from cystic fibrosis. As Pauline's obsessions grow, so do her attempts to escape the dull suburban shame and adolescent alienation she feels. Excision is a shocking coming-of-age nightmare where body horror, dark sexuality, and grotesque dreams collide to expose the fragile boundary between wanting to heal and being consumed by what you wish to fix. Number 14, Hobo with a Shotgun.
A hobo with a shotgun.
A tired drifter rides into Hopetown seeking a fresh start, carrying dreams of buying a lawnmower. Instead, he finds a lawless slum ruled by the sadistic Drake and his twisted sons, where brutal murders, corrupt cops, and warped games of violence are daily fare. The hobo witnesses atrocities and reluctantly steps into the fray when he saves a kind-hearted sex worker named Abby from a brutal attack. Struggling in a city of despair, he seizes a shotgun instead of his mower and ignites a bloody campaign of vigilante justice that turns this hellish place upside down. As cities favor chaos over compassion and bullets become brutal sermons, allies emerge in the form of battered townsfolk. It all unfolds in hyper-stylized, outrageously gory homage to grindhouse cinema. Number 13, American Mary.
That shouldn't come as a surprise to you. I'm changing specialties, Dr. Grant.
Mary Mason, a talented medical student buried under debt and desperation, accepts a job at a strip club to make ends meet and ends up thrust into the shadowy underground of extreme body modification. As she begins to perform cutting-edge, gruesome surgeries for clients who want to physically transform themselves in dangerous, unconventional ways, Mary's life spirals into moral torment. She's torn between ambition, guilt, and the shocking lengths she'll go to reclaim control over her body and identity. American Mary is a visceral body horror thriller that delves into the taboo of flesh, the power of consent, and what happens when artistry turns into obsession. Number 12, Deathgasm.
Wouldn't it be crazy if the music had something to do with demons?
Brody is an awkward metalhead exiled to live with his ultra-religious aunt and uncle in a small New Zealand town. He quickly bonds with Zach, a fellow outcast, and together they form a garage band called Deathgasm. But when they discover ancient sheet music hidden in a forgotten vinyl, they unknowingly summon a demonic force that turns townsfolk into snarling, blood-soaked monsters. Armed with axes, guitars, and chainsaws, the bandmates must shred their way through undead carnage and satanic chaos, all while navigating teenage crushes and betrayal. It's gory, crude, and hilariously unhinged, screaming with the spirit of horror and heavy metal rebellion. Number 11, In My Skin. Esther is a Parisian marketing professional whose life seems comfortably ordinary. Good job, steady boyfriend, plans for the future. Until one night at a work party, she injures her leg and things begin to unravel. After the accident, she becomes obsessively preoccupied with her own body. The injury, the flesh, the sensation of pain. What starts as fascination becomes self-harm as she uses knives, scissors, and any sharp object she can find, increasingly testing the limits of her body and her mind. Relationships strain. Reality blurs. In My Skin is a harrowing psychological horror that explores self-mutilation, bodily autonomy, and the desperation to feel something real when numbness takes over. Here are 4 other movies you have to see. The Deep House. A pair of urban explorers dive into a sunken house in a remote French lake, hoping to uncover something creepy for their channel. But what they find beneath the water is a perfectly preserved home hiding terrifying secrets. As the walls close in, their air runs low and supernatural forces awaken from the dark. A couple stranded in the remote Irish countryside is stalked by a supernatural creature that only operates under cover of darkness. As night extends, their fear intensifies, turning isolation into a predator's playground. The film delivers a taut, primal fight-to-survive scenario rooted in rural dread. The Night Watchman.
Gear up. Let's go kill some dead.
3 bumbling security guards working the graveyard shift at a Baltimore newspaper office face a blood-soaked nightmare when a mysterious delivery unleashes vampiric clowns into the building. As chaos spreads, they must team up with a rookie and a reporter to survive until morning. It's a gory, over-the-top horror comedy with bite and brutal laughs. Violet.
We don't like to waste things in this neighborhood.
I'm playing parents.
In a rural town haunted by the mystery of disappearing children, a mentally unwell mother named Sonia senses that something more sinister watches over her daughter. Her growing paranoia and dread infuse the film with an eerie, suffocating tension as she confronts unseen evil. Number 10, Frozen.
I don't want to die of it! Help!
3 friends, Dan, his girlfriend Parker, and his best friend Joe, take one last ski lift ride before the resort shuts down, only to find themselves stranded high above the slopes as night descends. With the mountain closed for days, they face bone-deep cold, gnawing isolation, and the cruel tick of hypothermia. Dan believes he must leap to safety and fractures his legs on impact, leaving Joe and Parker to stare at the abyss. Wolves circle unseen in the darkness, their howls a chilling reminder of how thin survival can be. Every choice feels like a razor's edge: cling to the chair or risk the plunge to death or worse. Directed by Adam Green, Frozen turns its single setting into a frigid crucible, marrying visceral dread with survival horror in every breath. Number 9, The Eyes of My Mother. Francisca grows up on a remote farmhouse learning from her mother, once a surgeon, about anatomy and removing animal eyes, taught to see beyond the ordinary. A tragic intrusion shatters her childhood, introducing trauma and loss that set her on a path of profound isolation. As she becomes an adult, Francisca's longing for connection warps into something dark and uncanny, her quiet home turning into a space of obsession, grief, and distorted love. Directed by Nicolas Pesce, this black and white horror debuts with a mesmerizing art house descent into loneliness, using silence, stark visuals, and chilling restraint to explore what happens when the human desire for closeness goes catastrophically wrong. Number 8, Afflicted. Two inseparable childhood friends dare to chase a dream of global exploration while filming their journey for a web-based travel series. Their adventure unspools like a living travelogue, with footage capturing sunlit plazas and bustling cafes, until one of them begins to suffer grotesque physical transformations. First the light burns, then vomiting, then inexplicable strength and thirst for blood as the body betrays its humanity. What starts as wanderlust morphs into a monstrous, intimate descent, the camera recording every tremor of fear and flicker of lost identity. Tension mounts as loyalty fractures and desperation takes root, turning familiar companionship into a frantic struggle for survival against the infected self. The film carries raw immediacy in its found footage conceit, each reel unspooling dread with visceral realism. Number 7, Juan of the Dead.
Los disidentes son lentos. Por lo menos eso está a nuestro favor.
Y al parecer aguantan mucho el dolor. Me parece que están drogados.
Juan is a slacker in Havana living a laid-back life with his friend Lazaro, barely scraping by, drinking and avoiding responsibility. When strange, horrifying incidents begin, bodies that aren't dead, people attacking each other, Juan realizes something more sinister than political dissidents is overwhelming the city. The dead are walking. Seizing opportunity amid the calamity, Juan starts a business called Juan of the Dead, charging families to kill and dispose of their zombified loved ones. As the zombie plague spreads, survival becomes messy, allegiances shift, morality blurs, and Juan's makeshift enterprise tests the limits of what people will do when civilization collapses. The film is a sharp, dark comedy horror that uses zombie chaos as both absurd entertainment and biting satire of social and political dysfunction. Number 6, The Advent Calendar.
Tu devrais arrêter avec ce calendrier, ça va te rendre dingue.
Ava, once a promising dancer, now inhabits a desolate routine from her wheelchair, plagued by isolation. A distant father drifting into Alzheimer's, and a cruel stepmother. On her birthday, she receives a mysterious antique wooden Advent calendar from her friend Sophie, an elegant talisman promising change door by door. Each day's confections yield uncanny results, sometimes a fleeting ray of hope, other times grotesque and deadly repercussions, binding Ava in a slow, addictive contract of power and sacrifice. What begins as wish fulfillment twists into terror as the lives of those around her fray under the calendar's dark bargain. The film unfurls like a deadly countdown, each door a new test of morality and desperation. It's eerie, surreal, and quietly relentless. Number 5, Shadow of the Vampire.
Well, you don't get him.
Who didn't just play the part.
But you're not feeding.
German director F.W. Murnau sets out in 1921 to shoot Nosferatu, an unauthorized adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, with the ambition of making the most authentic vampire movie imaginable. He hires the reclusive Max Schreck to play Count Orlok, claiming Schreck is a method actor who remains in character, works only by night, and never breaks the illusion of the monster. As the shoot progresses and strangeness mounts among the cast and crew, rumors and fears escalate. What if Schreck is not acting at all? When sickness, fear, and obsession weave tighter around the production, reality and artifice blur. The film twists behind-the-scenes filmmaking into a gothic mystery that forces us to confront how far one will go and how much one will lose in pursuit of cinematic truth. Number 4, Nefarious.
I get off on this.
Back up! Back up!
On the eve of his execution, a notorious death row inmate submits to a psychiatric evaluation that should be straightforward, but the killer speaks in chilling tongues, claiming he is no man but a demon named Nefarious. The psychiatrist, tasked with determining his mental competence, finds himself drawn into a psychological labyrinth where sinister truths twist the boundaries between sanity and possession. As the clock ticks toward lethal electric chair judgment, manipulations deepen and accusations of demonic influence fracture the veneer of rationality. Faith, free will, and morality crash together in a terrifying duel of wills beneath the glow of institutional scrutiny. Nefarious is a grim, faith-charged psychological horror that dares to ask whether evil can wear a human mask, and whether belief alone can withstand it. Number 3, Tetsuo 2, Body Hammer. Taniguchi Tomu is a mild-mannered salaryman with a wife and young son, but beneath the surface of his everyday life lies secrets he can't quite remember, like being adopted at age 8. When his son is kidnapped by a brutal gang of metal-worshipping skinheads, Tomu is forced into a violent confrontation with his past and his body. Injected by strange chemical agents and pushed to extremes by rage and grief, he begins transforming into something part flesh, part weapon, a machine monstrosity with deadly force. The film is a savage cyberpunk horror that marries visceral body horror with themes of industrial alienation, loss, and the terrifying idea that in anger, we might become the weapon we fear. Number 2, Frailty. A weathered man shows up in an FBI office, bearing a confession that drips with dread and haunted memory. He recounts a childhood in dusty Texas under a father gripped by divine visions, convinced he is commanded to destroy demons disguised as humans. He and his brother become unwilling accomplices in a cascade of brutal murders, torn between loyalty, terror, and the fracturing of faith. Flashbacks interlock with present-day interrogation, weaving a silent, suffocating tension where every act feels justified by holy delusion. It's a dark gospel of twisted morality that tightens the grip long after the screen fades. Directed by Bill Paxton in his assured debut, Frailty is a chilling testament to storytelling stripped of irony and steeped in zeal. Number 1, Taxidermia. Spanning 3 grotesque generations of Hungarian men, Taxidermia opens with Moroscovagni, a sexually repressed soldier trapped in a hellish outpost during World War II, whose disturbing fantasies ignite a legacy of obsession and shame. His son Kalman, raised in a communist Hungary, becomes a professional competitive eater, gorging himself to grotesque proportions in pursuit of glory. Decades later, Kalman's own son Lahoska, frail and quiet, works in solitude as a taxidermist, trying to make sense of the monstrous history he's inherited through flesh and ritual. Each chapter is more surreal and horrific than the last, blending brutal physicality with surreal visuals. Taxidermia is a nightmarish body horror odyssey of excess, repression, and legacy, where the human body is the battlefield for history, trauma, and transformation. Here are 4 other movies you have to see. Henry, Portrait of Serial Killer.
Don't do that, Otis. She's your sister.
This raw psychological horror trails a drifter named Henry as he embarks on a merciless crime spree across America, murdering with disturbing detachment. Alongside him is Otis, a prison friend, introducing Otis's sister Becky into a fraught, violent triangle. Based loosely on real-life killers, the film strips away glamour to present a brutally candid look at a psychopath's activities. Thanatomorphos. A young woman in a decaying relationship wakes up to find her body slowly rotting, piece by piece. Her flesh peels, bruises bloom, and bones crack. But no medical explanation can stop the relentless decomposition. It's a deeply disturbing descent into body horror and emotional alienation. Amulet. A homeless ex-soldier named Tomas accepts shelter in a crumbling London home inhabited by a young woman and her ailing mother. Beneath the guise of charity, the house conceals disturbing supernatural secrets that destabilize him. The film is a slow-burning blend of psychological dread and haunting folklore. Blood Vessel.
Shifters. They move by night, hunting. I've been killing monsters for years. A few more won't hurt.
Stranded at sea during World War II, a group of survivors boards an abandoned Nazi vessel drifting silently in the dark. What awaits them inside isn't salvation, but an ancient evil sealed below deck. As the bodies pile up, the line between war horror and supernatural terror vanishes.